What time is it? It's time for another Every Other Wednesday.
Hey, we should get started here. But we're a small but we're a lively group. It is April 30th, 2025. My name is Michael Kerr, coming to you from the Canadian Rockies, Canmore, Alberta, in the sovereign independent nation we call Canada.
For now.
And as always, I'm going to list the theme days for today, April 30th, 2025. There's quite a few, so listen up. Adopt a Shelter Pet Day, International Jazz Day. Do you like jazz, Sunjay? Yeah, okay. Raisin Day, Honesty Day, Bubble Tea Day, Bugs Bunny Day. What's up, Doc? International Guide Dogs Day to celebrate our wonderful guide dogs. Golf Day, International Noise Awareness Day, and Walk at Lunch Day.
Wait, you forgot one.
I wonder how many people walk at lunch.
You forgot one.
I did what?
Honesty Day.
Oh, you're right. Honesty Day. Yes, thank you. You caught that.
Because
it is also
all the other days are dishonesty days, but today is Honesty Day.
Honesty. So. And thank you, Carol, for the congratulations. Yes, we have an election and we survived. We had an election on Monday night. Seems like a lifetime ago now. Sunjay, introduce yourself, please.
My name is Sunjay, and I am based here in Oakville, and we were making fun of city names, often referred to as Jokeville.
Ontario. Oh, Jokeville. I did not know that.
And there you go. Just outside of Toronto, I'm a speaker and author, and I focus on leadership and performance with individuals and organizations. And everyone, welcome to Every Other Wednesday. We are gonna jump into it. And this is the topic we've actually touched on. Well, not touched on. We've covered it in the past, but we thought we would resurface it because we thought it was relevant. And
This is me resurfacing.
Oh, I thought you were elevating. Or
no, I'm resurfacing.
Bringing in the choir. Which is, we're looking at the topic of psychological safety. More specifically, Michael has brought to the group a very cool framework that we're going to kind of base this episode on. Do you want to jump into that a bit, Mr.?
Yes, I do, and thank you for that introduction. And how appropriate that you live in a place known as Jokeville.
Yeah, does it make you want to move?
Well, no, but no. I love my home in the Rockies. So yes, what we're going to talk about is we're going to break down this topic, and we often reference it on the show because it really is a key component of a healthy workplace culture, where you can have open and honest and transparent communication and high levels of trust and people feeling like they actually belong there. But we're going to break it down. And this is a framework that was created not by me, not by Sunjay, by a gentleman called Timothy R. Clark, who is a easy for me to say, social scientist and culture expert. And he's broken down psychological safety into these 4 components. I will put them on the chat box just so you have a framework. And what he suggests is these 4 different types of psychological safety build on one another. So as you were saying, Sunjay, it's almost like the framework of
the Maslow Maslow
hierarchy of needs, safety. Right? So he suggests these need to build in chronological order to build a better workplace culture. So we're going to dive into each of these one at a time, but I will put the 4 in the chat box. Would love your thoughts on these, your questions on these, but we'll try to, and obviously they all overlap. I think there's probably chicken and egg relationships here. There's overlap. There's Venn diagrams here. There's everything. But let's try to just focus on one at a time.
Although I agree there is this overlap in the Venn diagram, but there is definitely chronological order to them. And it's just the whole idea of so often, the cliche of crawl before you walk before you run kind of stuff. And the more complicated a topic gets, the more better it is to kind of break it down into components and have that structure and that understanding. So often, and for whatever reason, when I read this, go figure, numbers jumped into my head. But I actually started paralleling it to financial, like personal finances. And how often do people make the Ferrari payment before making the mortgage payment, right? So they're doing things ahead of time before actually getting the basics down. And that's what kind of really resonated with me on this framework, was this idea of, hey, we can't jump to doing all this fancy stuff until we have the bare bones of the basics.
The basics down. Yeah. And so I do see how these feed into one another. So I think this will be a very cool conversation. And you're right. Like we talk about concepts like this. Sorry?
Will you type faster? We're building it up.
I'm done. I'm hitting send right now. There we go with Richard's face, because I'm Richard today. So the four components are four different types that build on each other: inclusion safety, learner safety, contributor safety, and challenger safety. And like you said, Sunjay, this can kind of be an amorphous, vague concept like psychological safety. And anytime we have these kind of concepts, I think it is really helpful to break it down into specific components, because then we have a far better chance of succeeding, of understanding what it actually means in terms of specifics. And I think it would be interesting for our attendees to think about how their workplace, how their team rates in terms of each one of these.
And I actually think that you said that this is almost a rating system. So people could say, again, we're going to go into it more, but I think there's an element of intuitiveness to it. Inclusion safety, what is that? Well, I feel like I belong. Learner safety, what is that? Well, I'm learning. I feel it's an environment where I can learn, maybe make a few mistakes. Contributor safety. Oh, well, I can share my ideas and it won't get squashed. And then, the fourth and the pinnacle there is challenger safety. I can say to my colleague, to my boss, to my subordinate, to my whomever, hey, I disagree with you and here's why. And we can have a real conversation about that. And
and I was talking to my on a podcast yesterday to my friend and leadership speaker, Jamie Robbins, and he was talking about this framework. That's what sparked the idea of it. And he was talking about when he surveys people in his workshops, always the one that everyone scores the lowest on is challenger safety. So that's the one we'll build towards. But let's dive in with the first one, inclusion safety. And let me read what the standard definition of this is. It's the foundational stage of all the rest, which focuses on creating an environment where everyone feels genuinely included and accepted for who they are. It's about fostering a sense of belonging and respect, where individuals feel valued and can participate without fear of judgment or marginalization. And we've made this point before, Sunjay, on this show, about the difference between fitting in at work, fitting in on your team, versus truly belonging. So to me, that's a really important distinction we need to talk about. What do we do to create inclusion safety, where people feel like they don't have to adapt to fit in, but they truly belong on this team?
Right. And it's a connectedness issue, right? It's a matter of communication and awareness. And I mean, this is typically when people talk about psychological safety, this is what they think of, is the inclusion safety. Again, that's why I like this framework. It goes deeper. But yeah, what can you do? All the things we've mentioned before. And by the way, psychological safety is a newer buzz term, but it's been around forever.
Oh, yeah.
We just didn't necessarily call it that. So this is the idea of, again, do people have to go to work, or do they get to go to work? Do they tolerate being there because they don't feel appreciated, they don't feel included, or do they go and they celebrate and they're excited about being part of something bigger than who they are?
Well, let's talk about that right away. What is the risk? What is the danger of employees not feeling included at work? Like what are the ramifications of that?
I mean, productivity is to me is one of the biggest things. I mean, if you're stressed or you feel like you don't want to be there, you're putting in your time, you're just watching the clock and going, I'm out of here. And at the first possible opportunity, or every possible opportunity, you're cutting corners, you're going home a few minutes early, you're trying to get away as much as possible. And I think that would be a huge thing.
So really, Sunjay, you're speaking directly really about employee engagement at a fundamental level, that it would have a profound impact on how engaged you are with your job.
Totally. And all the spinoffs that come with that. So you're going to have higher absenteeism. You're going to have greater turnover. You're going to have, people will leave. If you don't feel belonging, people leave. Then what happens? You need to replace those people. And then what does that mean? Well, there's a ramp up. And you're, again, more inefficient during that periods of ramp up. It's also more costly because now you got to train someone to get them up to snuff for the person that just left that was only here for 6 months because they feel yucky. And so all sorts of tentacles that this could, and as Rob wrote, huge missed opportunities. Rob, I would love to hear what you think some of those missed opportunities are. And Sunjay, do you think one of the things we have to be aware of when we think about this first level of safety is how we're recruiting and hiring employees to begin with,
to make sure we are hiring, that both the employee that we're potentially hiring understands our workplace culture, our dynamics, our norms, and that we are hiring people that are going to help us grow our culture and not just fit in, but truly feel like they belong.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the short answer is of course. Excuse me, I was having a conversation yesterday with a potential client, and they were looking to hire me, and I was giving a bit of a standard spiel, talking about when hiring a speaker. I said it's very difficult to hire a speaker because it is our job to try to look good on our website and our videos, and we get our parents to write our testimonials, and so we're supposed to look good. Like that is our job.
Wait, you got your parents? Mine wouldn't write one for me.
Well, no,
No,
they did, but it was just
no.
nasty. You didn't want to put it on your website.
I'm
But
a little jealous.
they were honest. So, but then just what the client said to me, she said, "Oh, it's very much like when you're hiring someone.
Totally
They
right,
may you may look at their resume, and their resume may look fantastic, but you need to have that conversation with them, or vice versa. Their resume may be very meh, and you end up interviewing them only because the pool is very short, and you're just blown away by this person. And so that's that's the big piece on that. And you're reading what Rob's saying. And what is Rob saying?
I am. So yes, everyone has something to offer. It may not always be earth-shattering, but it's valuable. Absolutely. If you don't feel included, you're less likely to contribute, hence missed opportunities, which is why this is the foundational piece, the first piece, because I think it will affect those next 3 levels of safety. If you
and by the way, what Rob is saying, it's not always earth-shattering. However, even the people that give earth-shattering things, they don't give earth-shattering things every time. So it might be 1 in 20. So we need to support them the other 19 times so they feel safe enough. So when they have the earth-shattering moment, it comes out. So it's again setting. It's foundational. It's the building block that we're adding to.
Okay. So Sunjay, let's get down to brass tacks, as the kids say. What do I do if I'm a leader? If I'm a leader of a team, what do I do? What can I do specifically to help people feel like they truly belong and they're included, that they have this inclusion safety?
So one of the things I would suggest is know your own strength, meaning if you've got a good self-awareness meter, and if you know that you can kind of walk into a room and sniff it out and go, hey, there's inclusion here or there's not, that's fantastic. And if you suck at it, then the first thing you need to do is get a sleuth that can help you with that. And it might be an external consultant person. It may be an internal, gatekeeper, someone who's connected with people who knows what's going on. Because if you're, immune and you have, I guess we call it psychological safety blindness / deafness, you can't just plow forward going, it's fine and it's no problem. So if you don't have that self-awareness, then you need to get the support that someone can tell you, hey, here's what's going on. And look at this person. See how they always eat lunch in the corner by themselves? That's because they don't feel belonged. And so how do we invite them? How do we take them out for lunch? How do we play a game? How do we do lunch trivia? Whatever it is. But the first thing to do is you got to do a scan. I have to understand the lay of the land, what's going on. Then it's a simple gap analysis. This is where you are. This is where you are. This is where you want to be. How do you close that gap? And how you close that gap will vary from the personalities of the people you're dealing with. Are they introverts? Are they extroverts? Do they like, music? Do they like eating? Whatever it is. And that's really what you do is you're looking for the common elements. You want to talk Venn diagram. You're going, what are the elements that we can bring people together so that we can laugh more, learn more, and produce more together?
Yeah, fabulous. And I love the ideas coming in here. Check in with each other in a genuine way is so important. Asking for other people's input, being humble, right? Especially as a leader, that is so critical. And as
and by the way, that
genuine
checking in an authentic way is again so important. And some people will like, I don't care what sports their kids do. Then guess what? Don't ask about the sports the kids do. Right? You have to, in order for it to be authentic, it has to be something you're genuinely interested in. I don't care about anything. Well, no, that's not true, because you have things that are important to you, and you just have to figure out where they again, the Venn diagram, where that overlap is. Yeah. Because if you just spew words and you're inauthentic, unauthentic. What is it? Inauthentic, unauthentic?
Inauthentic.
You're not authentic. Then what happens is people you erode the relationship and the trust.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily go, oh, they're asking me questions that wasn't genuinely jazzing their soul. They just kind of go, I don't know, the energy. I feel distant. I don't trust him. I don't like her, or whatever it is. So that's why that authenticity piece is so fundamental.
Yeah, and this is a topic that I think we don't want to underestimate the importance of this. When I've asked people in different companies all over the world why they like this particular organization so much, one of the top answers I get is, this is the first place I've worked where I genuinely feel like I can be myself and bring my true self to work. And so then I think the challenge here too is to think about all those subtle ways, and it's hard to define these sometimes, right, Sanjay? The subtle ways that we encourage people to conform on our teams, in our workplaces, to start speaking like us, start sounding the same. We all start to kind of merge together, dressing the same. And what are those little red flags that we have to maybe watch for that aren't allowing people to be their genuine selves? And it certainly could show up in places like meetings, in places like where you have to do a presentation in front of your peers, and there's this expectation that, no, this is how we all kind of do it here.
Yeah. And by the way, another piece of this first element and creating that psychological safety net of inclusion is, and this is your expertise, Mike, but it's around humor. And it's something you really need to be aware of, because humor is a great way to, when they say a smile is one of the closest ways to connecting two people. Humor is a fantastic thing, but you got to make sure that your humor jives with other people, and especially too, if it's a poking kind of humor. Yeah. Right. Like I look at the four of us that host this thing, we have a very brotherly relationship. And at the core, we make fun of each other all the time. But the reason we can do that is we have an understanding, and we have a deep amount of respect for the four of us. And I interpret it as, when these guys are making fun of me, it's a form of love. And so that you can tell they love me a lot. And so I think that sometimes people don't necessarily appreciate that. You keep making fun of Gary with the ears. Gary's got the ears. And Gary laughs, ha, 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 but then he goes back to his office and cries. And so you need to be aware of that. If your sense of humor, especially, again, if it's at the joking kind of poking at people, that they truly do appreciate it, and because it'll have the opposite effect of creating an inclusive safety.
Yeah, and to the specific point of this topic, there is research that shows that we trust people more that share a positive sense of humor. And this speaks exactly to what we're talking about. The reason we trust people more who share a positive sense of humor is, I think, people come across as more real, more genuine. Those masks fall away. We become real human beings when we share a laugh, when we share our sense of humor. So it really is, I think, a good indicator.
Personally, I would ask, can you put the mask back on? I don't really like looking at your face. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. So we got to move along here.
Move on. What's going on?
So move along. Number 2 is learner safety. And this is defined as, once inclusion safety is established, learner safety encourages individuals to engage in learning and experimentation. So trying things out, taking risks, being okay to fail. This stage promotes a culture where mistakes are viewed as opportunities for growth rather than failures to be avoided. Learner safety helps encourage curiosity. And I think too, Sanjay, this is really important. If you have learner safety, and I know when I was a young kid in different jobs, and you're in those situations where you're kind of faking it and going, yeah, I know what everyone's talking about, right? I know how to do this, right? But you're going, I don't have a clue how to do this, right? So I think when you feel there's learner safety in place, you can put up your hand and say, I don't know anything about this topic. Can somebody coach me, mentor me, take me under your wing? Because I don't know anything about this.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest pieces on the learner safety is comfort with asking questions. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is not being afraid to look stupid or to ask a question that maybe you're supposed to know the answer to. It's like, I know we've known each other a long time. Can you remind me what's your name?
Yeah.
Right. It reminds me of Patrick Lencioni has written a bunch of books. He's a not a fable. What do you call them? A parable writer. And he wrote one that I really enjoyed was called Getting Naked. And the Getting Naked was about being vulnerable as a manager or a leader. And if you're sitting in the workroom and all of a sudden people keep using all these acronyms and you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, while we're on the topic, Mike, what does EOW stand for?
I have no idea.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
Earthworms of Wisconsin? I don't know.
No, I think
yeah. And well, on that point, Sanjay, I love this example from the book Let Them Surf, and it's about a leader in the military in the States, and he has this example of talking about this very topic, where in meetings he would to model what he wanted from everyone and to lead the way, he would purposely ask stupid questions. And he had an acronym for it that fails me now, but what's so funny is, and I talk about this in my last book, Small Moments, he screws up the acronym, and he didn't do this part on purpose, but it worked out fabulously, because sure enough, somebody felt safe enough to put up their hand and go, that acronym doesn't spell what you think it does, right? So then it became almost a joke to them. It was their shorthand way of reminding people to feel safe, to be naive, to not know, that it's okay to not know, but put your hand up. I may have told this story on an EOW, which I believe stands for Every Other Wednesday. I just remembered it. Oh my God, that's amazing. When I was like 20 years old, I had a job working in forestry research, and I was felling trees on the coast of BC on these steep mountains alone by myself with a chainsaw. They gave me no training on how to fell trees, how to safely use a chainsaw, no safety equipment, like nothing. I'm out there like an idiot. It is amazing. I have all my limbs to this day. It's amazing that I'm alive. Why didn't I speak up? I didn't speak up because I was young, because I didn't know what I didn't know, because I was insecure, because I was a shy introvert, and I figured my boss wouldn't put me in harm's way. Surely they wouldn't do that. They must know what they're doing, right? So
the other thing too, is along the lines of around those asking the questions, and I read this semi recently, I don't remember where, but they're saying that more intelligent people aren't afraid to say when they don't know something. Yeah. Generally, the less intelligent try to compensate, but the more intelligent kind of go, yeah, no clue. Can you explain this to me? Because you know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I am an idiot when it comes to this, and I'm willing to learn. So talk to me, or tell me what I need to know so that we can move on.
And that ties into self-awareness. It ties into so many other aspects of this. But this is really important, right? It's and the whole, and we've talked about this lots. We maybe don't have to dive into this too deep, but the importance of letting people fail, of trying new ideas, recognizing that, hey, it's a new idea, so we don't know if it's going to work until we actually do it, but we're okay with that.
Yeah.
And we're going to support you.
And that's not only in business, that's social and family. And I mean, I used to say this all the time with my kids. I said, I want to give them a helmet, plug the electrical outlets, and I want them to go break their leg. Yeah. Let them, you want to put in some safety barriers, like not just, it's not okay to fail. Oh, I just tanked $100 billion company. Woo! Yeah. You put in some safety parameters, but then you let people explore, and, you hire slow and fire fast. So you try a little something. If that works, then you try something a little bigger and then bigger, as opposed to jumping off the deep end and, going real big to begin with.
I think too, don't you think, Sanjay? We should get to some of the comments here, but I think too, as a leader, I think it's really important to talk to your team about how you are continuously learning in your job. Like, what do you actively do? Are you still taking courses, taking micro online learning courses, watching YouTube videos, reading books to help you grow in your career, and sharing that with your team, that, hey, if we want a continuous improvement mindset and a growth mindset, it's important that we have a learning culture. But let's just, because I keep seeing Richard's face in here and thinking that he's spying on us, that he's in the chat, he's watching us now in comedy. But it's me. I know, it's so weird. It's a little creepy though.
Speaking of weird,
yes. Thank you, Pamela, for that. Yes, this is an important announcement. May 3rd is World Naked Gardening Day. So talk about your getting naked reference.
Can we do it every other Wednesday on May 3rd and ask everyone?
Oh, I don't think we want to. I don't think we want to. And Amy, thank you for this. Always tell folks to ask questions. So important that folks feel comfortable reaching out. We don't know what we don't know, right? Yes, I know. And I can tell you, I still learn things new every day, as hopefully we all do. And I'm sorry, Carol, if I triggered you with my chainsaw. It sounds like there's a story there. Better, easier to answer a stupid question than fix a stupid problem.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I love that. Yes.
That's great.
Carol, you just found out you're more intelligent. Excellent. The more I learn, the less I know. Yeah, isn't that?
I mean, it's cliche, but it's very, very true.
It's totally true.
And people that go around trying to profess that they're the best at everything, it's mind-boggling that they think that that's.
Well,
I'm trying so hard trying not to be political here, but yes, it can.
Are you thinking of a certain individual?
No, I'm thinking of the Pope.
Well, and this ties into the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Too, that we.
What's the Dunning-Kruger effect?
The Dunning-Kruger effect, that when we're stupid enough to not know that we're stupid, kind of, is a shorthand summary of that we don't know what we don't know, that we yeah.
And it's also very similar to the Peter principle.
Oh, Elon Musk with the chainsaw. That's what triggered you. Yes. Okay. Yes. And yes, Pamela, thank you. Self-awareness and self-confidence go hand in hand, totally essential for encouraging people to speak up and ask questions. So all of this is a beautiful segue into the third level here, the third stage, the third component of psychological safety, the third type of psychological safety, contributor safety, which, as it sounds, individuals feel empowered to contribute their ideas and perspectives without fear of ridicule or criticism. It's about fostering a space where everyone's voice is heard and valued, and where individuals feel comfortable sharing their insights and their suggestions. So it's about that speaking up, offering ideas in meetings, and not being the least bit afraid to do that. So Sunjay, how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we
it's all these things. It's the same thing. It's a matter of articulation, communication, and role modeling. And if you can, show by example, you get the most senior person in the room to contribute something that maybe is silly or ridiculous. It shows, and you then that's not necessarily the most authentic way of doing it. However, to me, things like that are training wheels to get where we want to go. And if we need to plant someone who is a senior leader to set the example of hey, this is how we contribute, I have no issue with it, especially if it gets the ball rolling. Now, if it's done every time and it becomes artificial and fake and then you've actually started to erode from number one, the inclusion safety, because then people don't feel it's authentic. But again, so that's how you contribute. You ask people, or
yes, ending that, Sunjay, I would also just add that sometimes the best thing the leader can do is be the last person to contribute and speak up, so that they're not influencing people's perspectives around the table,
especially if people are contributing. However, if people aren't contributing, sometimes, again, that's a good way to get the ball rolling. But I 100% agree with you. In an ideal situation, you don't want the senior leader doing anything.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want them. You want the ideas coming from the masses.
Yeah. And of course, this speaks to all sorts of things. It speaks to something I joke about in my talk about, do you have a paper shredder on the other side of your suggestion box? Because you ask for ideas, you ask for suggestions, and then nobody ever hears another word back about their ideas or suggestions. It speaks to the power of this as a form of recognition, that we know one of the most powerful forms of recognition there is asking people for their ideas and input. This speaks to the whole idea of getting rid of seagull voices at the workplace, where people are going, it's a stupid idea, and crapping all over one another. That's my seagull. It'll never work. We tried it in 1987. Right? So keeping that language at bay and being open to the possibilities, and yes-anding, to use the theater improv term, when people suggest ideas. So there's a whole bunch wrapped up in this topic for sure, but it is so critical.
Chainsaw triggered Carol, and numbers trigger me. You said 87. So did you know that Sidney Crosby, the hockey player for the Pittsburgh Penguins, the captain, he was His number is 87, and he was born in 1987 on August 7th, 87. Sorry.
Is that why his number is 87?
He was born August 7th, so
Yeah.
the 8th month, 7th, and he was born in
Oh,
1987.
but I didn't know that. Is that why his number is? Oh, wow. Okay, that's
There
very
you
cool.
go. See, your
Thank you.
numbers are triggering.
I learned something today. Look at that.
Finally. So yeah, I mean, the stages work like this. It says, hey, people feel safe. Oh, I feel like I belong. Good. Number 2, learner safety. I can ask questions and learn. Number 3, oh, I can make suggestions. I can contribute, and I don't have ridicule people making fun of me, or, you know, even if they disagree with me, it's done in a healthy, respectful way.
Right.
So that we can all learn. I had, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this in the past, but I worked with a trucking company. It was a long time ago. It was just after the 2009 crisis, the financial crisis. And it was a decently large company back then, about 1,500 employees. And I had the 40 VPs or something of the organization for a day. And it was one of the most refreshing groups I'd ever met with. Most of, like 75% of these guys, they're all truckers. They're all trucker mouth, potty mouth. The 3/4 of them only had a high school education, but these people were brilliant. And one of the things that was most brilliant about this organization was the lack of BS. And so if they disagreed with one another, they would, and again, it was a very healthy respect. The way they structured the thing was very autonomous. So they ran like 12 different divisions, and each division ran like its own company, but then they had some centralization of HR processes and payroll and that sort of thing. So at the end of the year, for example, if you got a bonus, you can do whatever you want with the bonus. You could split it with all your people. You can keep it for yourself. You can do anything you want. So they got a lot of autonomy. And when I was at this workshop during during this event, they had one of the VPs, again, high school education, so not formally educated, but he was talking about how during the 2009 financial crisis, their sales went from 65 million down to 40 million, but they maintained the same profitability. And he was talking about what they did in order to do that.
Right.
And so again, smart, street smart. But what I found the most cool thing about this organization was there was no backstabbing, none of the Siegel stuff behind the back. Everything was always to their face. You're an idiot, and here's why. And they would actually duke it out, and again, in a healthy, respectful way.
Yeah.
And even if they disagreed, at the end of the day, we go, I still think you're an idiot. Let's go grab a beer. And they would go grab a beer, and it was so refreshing and such a beautiful thing to see. But that was a contributor safety. You're doing it wrong, and here's why. No, I'm doing it right, and here's why. Well, I disagree with you. Okay, good. Let's go.
Well, and that's a classic red flag in my books when there's no debate in meetings on your teams.
Yeah.
And a green flag is when there's healthy, passionate debate, but you're focused on the ideas, on the issues.
So, like, and you want a big debate, a mass debate?
Yes, and stop it. And thank you for that, Carol. Yes, we have to create that culture where everyone understands. No, we can't. We need lots of ideas in order to get the good ideas and the best ideas, which means not all the ideas are going to work, but we're going to explain why. We're still going to try some out. We have to create that culture of open, honest communication and transparency so people understand all of that. So we get back to them. And Rob, yeah, fake it till you make it, right? That ties into this. It ties into everything from the first level of safety, the inauthenticity piece, I think sometimes, where we're faking who we are, we're faking our persona, we're faking it so we don't adopt a learning, I know, mindset. So yes, I know, I was looking at we have to get to the fourth one. Challenger safety. The final stage, folks, is this, and this is probably the most difficult one for people to feel safe about. This is where individuals question the status quo and challenge assumptions, existing practices. This stage encourages, well, what we were just talking about, constructive dissent and critical thinking, and enables individuals to propose new ideas and improve processes. So there's overlap to the last one, but this is more about really actually confronting, I think, the norms. It's also very much about challenging your superiors, challenging your boss, challenging the CEO in a room where you put up your hand and go, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah, and it's challenging across on all levels. It's just by generally when we go up the hierarchy, we tend to be more hesitant. But you should be able to challenge your peers, and again, in a healthy conversation,
right,
or the people that are below you, and in all levels. But yeah, So, I mean, if you're a zero organization, you don't have any of these safety factors, right? You don't have inclusion, you don't have learner, you don't have contributor, you don't have challenger. If you're a 1, okay, people feel safe being there, but they just keep to themselves. I'm not worried that, someone's gonna berate me. If I have learner safety, I feel like I can ask questions, but that's about it. I don't really feel like I can give, because if I give the wrong answer, people are gonna laugh at me.
Yeah.
But then if you're a 4.0, then what do you have? You have the idea of, I feel relaxed, I'm learning lots, my ideas are heard, but I can go and say, hey, I have an issue, and here's why. And again, it doesn't mean the organization is going to pivot and do what you say. It means it opens up to a healthy discussion, a healthy debate, and you kind of go through it together and kind of, this makes sense. Well, let's proceed down this way. Or, well, what if we take pieces of that and piece of that, mush them together, and move forward?
Yeah, yeah. And I think one of the fundamental distinctions between these last 3 types of safety is the contributor one is perhaps more about the idea of building on existing things that already exist, right? So it's yes-anding things, whereas challenging safety is very much like, should we actually be doing this? Yeah, we've been doing it this way. In fact, it makes me think of, I sometimes talk about this idea of new employee syndrome, where you've hired a new employee at an organization, and I guarantee you with most new employees this happens at one point. Maybe it's week 1 into the job, maybe it's not until their first month, but they stop in their tracks and they have this thought: I wonder why the hell they're doing it this way. Like, why are they doing it this way? But I'm not going to say anything because I'm the new person here. So I'm just going to, they must have a reason for doing it this way. But those are sometimes some of our most valuable resources because they have fresh perspective, totally, they're baggage free, right? They're seeing things for the first time. And that can provide us with some of the most powerful insights and ideas.
And so to piggyback on that thought, which is you're asking, how do we do inclusive safety? How do we do learner safety? How do we do contributor safety? How do we do challenger safety? Well, that's one of the best things you can do is for every new hire, 6 weeks into it, you pull them aside and go, all right, you're the CEO right now. What changes are you making?
Yeah. What have you seen? Yeah. What changes you're making? If you had a magic wand, what would you do differently? We want, and then what a powerful message that sends to the employee, right? That they will carry with them. And I think, yeah. And then I think some, if you do these right, they're not contrived, but literally in meetings when ideas are being presented, make sure you do have a format where you literally stop and say, okay, everybody, let's brainstorm what's wrong with this idea. Let's play devil's advocate, or even assign an official role of somebody in the meeting to be the court jester, the devil's advocate, who is then going to challenge the assumptions you're making about this project, about this idea, that's going to look at the downsides of this. So you're looking at this idea in a realistic way. So they're literally empowered to challenge this idea.
Along the same lines, when we started every other Wednesday, many moons ago, the 4 of us sat down and we decided that Mike would be the jerk, and he's filled the role brilliantly.
I think I've done admirably well.
Yeah, that's
I think full marks for me on that. We need to slowly bring this down, bring this plane down. This is, I don't know what this is. This is my miming a plane landing at a runway, Sanjay. This is,
yeah. I don't get it. I feel psychologically safe enough to say, can you explain that to me?
Are you challenging me on my miming skills? Stephen has a really good question here to ask. Yes, I love that. If we don't do this, what would happen? True, right? And that's you raise something really important, Stephen. I think questions are so important, and the type of questions we ask, and asking different questions, right? So we're looking at it from all sorts of different angles. Well, what would happen if we don't do this? Brilliant. All right. Any final thoughts, Sanjay? Any final thoughts from our chat?
No, again, like I said, I liked it. I liked how it built on one another. Normally, we think psychological safety, it's an on or off switch, it's binary, but it's not. Right. This is a gradient. It said you can be psychologically safe, but still not be thriving because people can't feel like they can challenge, or they can't feel like they can contribute, or they can't feel like they can learn, but they feel safe. So I thought it was a neat way of looking at things, and I'm glad we got to pound it around a bit.
I love that you said the word neat. It was neato. It was neato.
It was swell.
It was gosh darn it. It was so neat, this concept. Yes, I agree with everything you said, Sanjay.
Was it neat what I said?
Yes, it was neat.
Right.
It was very neat.
It's the opposite of messy. It was neat.
I love it. Hey, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for your brilliant commentary in the chat box. Always appreciated. We always appreciate and love.
You got a nifty session.
It was a nifty session. It was cool beans. So thank you all. Sanjay,
April 14th.
what's happening? April? Did you say no?
We're going back in time.
We're not doing the time travel thing.
No.
Again, remember 1974, how that worked out? No, we're not doing that.
Yeah,
yes, May 14th. What is happening May 14th, Sanjay?
It'll be another Every Other Wednesday, Michael.
Wow, look at you. Another Every Other Wednesday. And what's the acronym for Every Other Wednesday, Sanjay?
I learned that today. I believe it's WOE.
It is
Darth WOE.
Let me challenge you on that, Sanjay. And so we can all learn something. And I'm going to do it in my authentically genuine way. It is Every Other Wednesday, you bonehead. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, folks. We'll see you.
Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.